Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks out there. Welcome to RPG with DBJ, and welcome to this newly named Crunch Time Tuesday. Yeah, I think it's cute too, so I've got to give all credit to those who have been major part of the show. Thank you very much for joining me. For those who do not know, this show is simulcast over three different media types. Simulcast over on Twitch, YouTube, and our own Discord server. At least just the audio is punched out there. And Palora, hey, long time no hear. Good to see you. And also the show, in addition, we are a long form format type of show. So we'll take something, we're talking about pandemics, and we're going to talk about it all week long. And then we subdivide it into different categories, kind of sort of to keep us on the right track. And today on Crunch Time Tuesday, we are going to talk about pandemics as it relates to tabletop RPGs, and specifically some mechanical elements we can add in the game or modify and discuss and all that kind of thing for our tabletop RPG games. Now, for those who do not know, if you join the Discord server, all the brilliant people that make this show possible hang out over there and having lots of talks. We, of course, there's a little preamble, like 5 to 10 minutes before the show goes on, and we were talking about different strains of viruses and things like that. Just basically talking off the cuff. And one of the things that I think makes the discussion we're having a little bit different than just talking about, say, diseases, is the idea of a pandemic, in the sense that this is the thing that is transforming your setting, your world. And if you're the type that, like, I don't know, you have an old fantasy setting and you're like, you know what, I think I'm gonna throw an apocalyptic event. This is it's possible to do a pandemic to make that happen. Or if you have a bounded location, like a space habitat or something like that, some kind of dome city, throw a pandemic in there, throw the PCs right in the middle of it, and hilarity begins to ensue, right? But seriously though, in terms of gaming things, I think diseases themselves, in all shapes and sizes, are one of the things that, like, on paper sounds really good, but it's like one of the top 5 doesn't really work in practice kind of things, right? And and the application of diseases onto the player characters themselves, to me, is one of those things. Mind control, any kind of like mind control, it kind of ranks up there as like a top 5 that doesn't work. The classic dramatic duel with one-on-one with one player and one duelist with other player characters is another thing that, like, it sounds good but doesn't really work, yeah, like Rickard says. I think they sound really, really terrible. Thank good. Yeah, no one wants to go through that. It's great to have diseases included in the role playing game, but like bed rest and all of the side effects of being sick, none of us like being sick at all in the most minor way. I mean, think all the people who have allergies out there. I end up getting adult allergies, and it's just like, oh, eyes start to water, and you're sneezing and coughing, and then you take that and you start ramping that up between all the contagious diseases and genetic ones and things. It's not very fun. But we still want to use it because we have these things that are available to us. So how do we use it? So I think, mechanically speaking, for me, a majority of the time, for me, it sounds like a tension timer, a pressure cooker, a thing to get people moving. An example would be giving giving characters like physical representation that they are suffering from something without any mechanical disadvantages from it, and begin it with the idea that over a given period of time they will begin to suffer something, right? Yeah. Yeah, and you have a head cold, and you have dysentery. Yeah, and you, I see that. Oprah handing out the old, yeah, diseases and viruses and bacteria. The disease that keeps on giving, right? Yeah, it's, ooh. And there are some that are not lethal that are absolutely terrible. Um, what do you guys call it there uh the far north? Yeah, we have something for everybody. Up in Norway or so. What's it? Oh, you've got a great name for it. I just can't remember it. But there's a disease. I think it's like half shits, half vomiting or something. I can't remember. Anyway, so back back to the terribleness of getting sick. So for player characters, like for example, if they yeah, coming out of both ends, Vinter Krasjuka, um, Vinter Krasjuka. I'm butchering the pronunciation of that. Um, is this idea that players may, for example, let's say they get sores or their eye color changes or their skin or something like that. Oh, Winter Crossing Yuka. Yuka. Uh, there is squirrel. Okay, the something like skin color, voice change, sweats. You could go the eye color change, loss of like appetite, um, things of that things of that nature might lead to something that might happen in say 3 days. We've seen this in all of our zombie apocalypses, right? Someone gets bit, or blood gets in their eye, or something like that, and then we have a period. The plot tells us how long it will take for that individual to start suffering from this viral outbreak that they begin to turn into a zombie. And you could play it that way, where the shorter the time period, the more pressure you put on the player characters, right? If they're going to transform in an hour, their asses are going to run around to try to find a cure. Where if you make it 3 days, they'll be under some pressure, as you could probably run a minimum of like 3 sessions, if not more, just based on the player characters running around trying to find some kind of way to alleviate the symptoms. Now, I suppose you could even run, and I know that they exist out there in the indie format. You could run something where you've already stated up front, hey guys, everybody's going to die. Period. That's it. Everyone's going to die. And then you move on from there. Like, okay, we're going to play the game and see exactly what you can do and how far you can get before you die. Right. Plura's like, lycanthropy and friends. I don't think that's a children's show, but whatever. Yeah, Ogre's like, it was almost entirely gone last winter as people were washing their hands. What is this epidemic of people not washing their hands? Just were there that many people reaching into their genitalia and their butt cracks and like having actual physical contact with other people? Like it, I don't know. What is it, like flavorful or something? Put it on your food. I don't know. Yeah. Dead man says it's like typhoid then. Yeah, putting it in sprinkling it in your food. Like, Oh, what's that? Rub, rub, rub. Just a couple of dead skin cells and some extra. I added some hepatitis on there for you. Oh, sweet. Yum, yum. So, another method of having a mechanical effect for diseases would be the like having a trait that the player characters kind of spend, and then over a period of time, they will suffer some of the bad effects of whatever is happening. Fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons has hit dice, and strangely enough, it's a mechanical thing that exists that has a very myopic like purpose, but whatever. Characters could lose hit dice. Now, for the most part, there's nothing really that happens, but oh, Cameron's like, hepatitis, my favorite kind of cheese. Yeah. All moist and scraping it off the top of your food. You're like, ooh, is that extra hep? Yum. Oh, how sick. But it's oh man, sorry, my mind just went to a really nasty place with that. Anyway, since it is crunch time, um, the one of the exploration things that we could have with the pandemic itself is and I know this seems kind of strange because it should be held for Third Pillar Thursday, but whatever. Part of the exploration, uncovering details, would be all of the details related to what would happen if you got the disease in the first place, and then letting the players play with that information. For example, like I just finished a pretty unique zombie movie called Train to Busan. It's a Korean film on Netflix, at least broadcast here in the States. It's really good. I mean, yes, they're zombies, but it takes place basically in and around and on a train, and they really go out of their way to try to like. It's a third pillar movie for me. I'm really amazed by it just because of that. Um, yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, Omen's like, yeah, it's a Korean film. Filipinos went nuts about it. Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. You get to know they very easily, very quickly introduce you to all of the characters and what's going on, and much like a number of various zombie style movies with a pandemic that breaks out or whatever. Yeah, that's like Snowpiercer with zombies. Actually, yes. Uh, yes, right. For example, yeah, I'll say that there's for example, there's a scene in the movie. I'm not giving anything. Yep, there's too many zombies on this mofo train. Yeah, we could have used some Samuel L. Jackson. He's the master of the mofo. Yep. Omen's like, yep, there was even a typical asshole character. Sure was. Sure was. I don't think he got what I think he could have gotten more than he um got what he deserved. I think he could have got his ass beat. I was just like, what? The minute he spoke up, I was like, that's the asshole character. Oh man, how long is he gonna live? Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man. Cameron says, I think I'm evil. I just thought of a necrotic disease that drains levels. Players would be so mad. Well, I hate to burst your bubble there, Cameron, but this old Grognard remembers back when level drain was a real thing in AD&D. The wraiths and wights, as God, that sounds terrible now that I'm saying it during this period of time. WIGHT were creatures that had level drain, and yeah, level drain, literally, you were a 7th level character and you got hit. And the damage they would do is they would drain your level and you would lose everything related to that. So you go from 7 to 6 and you lose your hit points and spells and other, damage capabilities and the hit bonuses. It was pretty brutal. And not only was it brutal, but it was also like crunchy. It says this is Crunch Time Tuesday. Yeah, like Pelora says, like level drain is evil. It also takes forever. It it's already bad enough to try to level up, but at least it feels good while you do it. Leveling down, having to like, okay, let's see. I got 2 spells at a 5th level, so I got to get rid of that. And let's see, my con bonus plus the die roll. All right, so I lose that hit point. All right, and then I got a bonus on my saving throw on rod, staves, and wands plus okay, so I ranked that down. Oh, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal there, Cameron. So it existed. They tried it, and they were like, "Hell no, not anymore." So you are correct. Yes. Yeah. Cameron says, "Holy crap! Level drain was a -1 to all rolls in Pathfinder First Edition, and it wasn't always permanent. Oh no, level drain was permanent. AD&D, that first player's handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, yeah, Monster Manual, yeah, it was permanent. It was you got hit, the creature took it away from you. Sorry, yeah, it was a big. Those were Gygaxian FUs at that time. Oh yeah. Um, Now I could like you mentioned on in Pathfinder, like yeah, Cameron, yeah, it was pretty bad. Um, I could see like some kind of like you're talking about where Pathfinder included like a -1 to all rolls, and it could start to ramp up the further away the PCs are from whatever they can use to stop the affliction, or there could be some kind of anecdotic kind of thing where, oh yeah, you're suffering from the disease, but there are no game effects unless you stop taking the thing that prevents those things from happening. Much like taking like a cold remedy to keep the cold away. Like there's no cure for the common cold, but we take medicine to keep it away. Sure, the player characters might have like purple splotches all over their limbs and their face and such, and maybe their eyes are runny and their nose is running, but there's no like mechanical effect on it until I've got 3 doses of the antidote left, and I've got to take one each day. And if I don't take it, we're going to have to go back to the back to the hag or something. Now, um, Tesla Ranger says my GM always collected the character sheets after the game, so all he'd have to do is plan ahead and make copies before any level draining. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's that. Now, mind you, there are with virtual tabletop things out there now, whether you're using any of the numerous virtual tabletops. I suppose it's easier to do it, but it doesn't feel any better. Hey, let's go into D&D Beyond. Click, 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 click. -3 level drains on each of you. Boop, 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 done. And the players are like, what the I spent 5 hours leveling up, and you just took it away in one combat? Yep. Yep. Now, the one thing that I think sometimes we don't think about, and mind you, when I say we, I thought about it already, is if someone has an illness, it's best if other people, if depending on how it's spread, the contagion of it, other characters shouldn't be around them. And so imagine having a player character like, hey, my bard is sick. Hey, paladin, come over and lay on hands. And the paladin's like, yeah, no, I might not want to do that. Now, I know I'm being facetious because bards have the ability to heal as well as heal themselves as well as others, and the paladin, of course, has the ability to like heal diseases and conditions and things. But one of the things that 5th edition has kind of pretty much gotten rid of is any permanency. I mean, a good night's rest and pretty much you're back up and running again, as well as the fact that they've really moved away from long-term effects and long-term exploration, like survival exploration and such. A simple, lay on hands, or what's the other one? Cure disease, pretty much, and poison as well. Pretty much gets rid of most of those. So you would have to state that whatever diseases you're using in that particular game are far more horrendous than given. Or, the other idea is that, sure, the cleric might be able to heal a disease, but that doesn't stop that individual from being a carrier of said disease or getting that affliction themselves. So maybe one of the player characters must stay away from everyone, like a leper colony. Hey, I'd love to help you out, but I'm going to have to heal you from afar. Yeah, I'll shout out to you and hope you do better, but I'm not going to touch you. Also, diseases make people. I mean, this is strange, but maybe diseases make people smell funny, and you become a beacon for other monstrous things out there that like sniff you out and come to hunt you down and whatnot. Deadman says in first edition and second edition, level drain was permanent and didn't allow a saving throw. Third edition changed it so it was a -1 to all rolls and a loss of your highest level spell with a saving throw at the end of the day. To prevent it. That's still it's still brutal. That's why it was taken out. I think they tried to soften it up, and it was like, yeah, a punch in the nose by a less harmful punch doesn't make it any better. It's still a punch in the face, right? I got to sit there and take it. And they're like, yeah, but I'm wearing a boxing glove. I don't care. Stop punching me in the face, So other mechanical things could be more narratively driven, even though they do have a mechanical effect, like I just mentioned, where if you have this affliction, you become a beacon for other monsters. So, like a zombie apocalypse, right? Some people become a beacon for the zombies while others stand there and the zombies just run past them. The idea of like rubbing zombie guts on you to make it seem like you're one of them. That's a possibility, as well as the fact that maybe there are certain things that you can or can't do because of the disease, yeah, my character can walk, but I can't dash, right? Because it hurts so much. Or becoming mute, right? Your throat clenches up. You have a nasty cough, and you can't speak. So now you can't verbalize and use verbal components or something. Maybe there's heck, you've got the disease and you can't touch other people, and maybe you have something that's got a range of touch. Now, the other side effect of that might be player characters inflicting it on like NPCs and bad guys, which I don't know. I'm sure some players would love to use and abuse that, but I'd let them do it anyway, right? It's not like you're going to run out of people in the world or monsters or something. Yeah. Now, Deadman says in third edition, most diseases cause a loss of attributes, which is temporary unless a save is made. And that's another thing, too, where while not as... It's still complicated, but not as much, would just be attribute loss, a loss of strength, loss of con, a loss of intelligence or something like, when you're afflicted by it, you lose 1d4 strength per day or something. I don't know, whatever the case may be. And so you have less mathematical attributes to have to fiddle with. A loss of strength, would just reduce your in fifth edition would just reduce your damage potential, possibly even making it negative, and any to hit bonuses and damage bonuses, but at least it's not affecting the whole character sheet, which is pretty nasty. But so yeah, you could do that, or in like fifth edition has the aid system, right? Advantage, inspiration, disadvantage. You could just make it you have disadvantage on everything unless you expend one of your inspirations to, or maybe expend a hit die to remove the negativity of the disease to get that like extra bit of strength to do something. And maybe maybe the game master's like, all right, well, in this scene, if you expend your inspiration, you have a burst of energy and you don't have the disadvantage anymore. You're like, oh, great. And then once that scene is over, you're like, all right, you're back to suffering and sweating and having night sweats or something. You're like, all right. Pelora says hypersensitivity. Take extra damage. Touching things causes damage. Armor is painful to wear. Yeah, absolutely. A reduction of encumbrance. Right. You're able to carry less. So maybe everything you're carrying is ranked up an extra level. Let's say you have like light, medium, and heavy. So everything that's lightweight now becomes like medium or something. Like you could do that. Maybe one-handed weapons feel like they're two-handed weapons, so you have to uh, manipulate them that way. So yeah, there's some ways to do it to have like a mechanical effect. But like I mentioned a little bit yesterday, it's stick and carrot, and a lot of players honestly hate sticks. They hate getting beat by engaging in games. They would rather have the carrot, meaning like it's better if 10 is your average, then players would prefer to be at a 10 and then have it things that rank them above 10 rather than playing at a 10 and realizing that they have to rank below 10 to engage in the game, right? It just feels that much better. Yeah. Yep, like Rickard said, you catch more flies with honey. Exactly. It would be better to do it that way rather than having everyone at a 15 and then when you play the game, oh, sorry, you're down to a 10, rather than everyone being at a 10 and ranking up to 15 to feel better. Yeah, Rickard says, so a hunter's mark for zombies? A zombie's mark, if you will? I could see that. I could see something like that. I mean, they're being afflicted. Wow, that would be different to have spell effects afflicted on the player characters as if they were under the effects of a spell that benefited something external to them, right? Like a hunter's mark or a fairy fire or what's some other one? Heck, and hold person or charm person spell that the disease causes you to just be like the disease causes you to go numb, thereby you're afflicted as if you're afflicted by a charm person spell. So when someone tells you to do something, you just don't even have any mind to ignore them. You're like, listen, go over in the corner, just sit down. And you're like, I guess I'll go to the corner. Oh, I'm so sick. You know what I mean? Like it could be something like that, or like hold person. You just have the chills. Now, mind you, there are conditions in the game. Unconsciousness, incapacitation, being restrained, grappled, blinded, paralyzed, and things like that. So you could just put them in parity with that as well. And along with the player characters trying to find things to cure the disease that's in them, again, like spending inspiration, taking some kind of antidote or something like that to at least temporarily or permanently remove the affliction that's in them. And it could be that like expending energy is the thing that will make it happen faster. So, for example, let's say there's some arcane disease or something where you lose spell slots or something. Maybe when you spend your hit dice, you spend your spell slots, you engage in battle or something like that. As a game master, you're like, all right, well, you had, I'm making up something off the top of my head. Like you have 5 levels of this this affliction, and you're fighting. Okay, I'm running you down to 4. When you get to 0, you know you're going to start suffering disease. And like, yeah, but we got to get out of here because we got to run from the trolls. Right? Oh, you're running for. Okay, that's another -1. You're down to 3. What? Well, it's like the crank movies. The more adrenaline you use, the worse it might start to get. Although that's not how the crank movies worked. There's even a movie called, I think it's called DOA, Dead on Arrival, where the main character is poisoned, realizes that the poison will kill them in like 24 hours, and then runs around the entire movie trying to find out who tried to kill them and and solve some other crimes and blah 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 until they die. The Crank movies, one version of it was the main character, Jason Statham, gets injected with some kind of poison, and the minute his adrenaline drops down, he dies. And what? Owen's like, all I know from DOA is busty ninjas. Oh, busty ninja, but I don't know if there were busty ninjas in that, unless there's an anime related to that. Dead man's your side. Just hope the flies aren't carrying the disease. Yeah, you start using honey to. Yeah. Yeah. I think he's thinking of a different DOA, but yeah, yes, Cameron, I am talking about the old noir film DOA. Yes, I am. Deadman puts in the Dead or Alive franchise. Not Dead or Alive, Dead on Arrival. Almost like, busty ninjas. And anyway, uh, the uh, while we don't have to, in real life, we don't have very many diseases that are like exceptionally cool. In a fantasy setting, you very much could have diseases that are like kind of cool with it, right? Where meaning like you could have deaths. Yep, Tesla Ranger. That's exactly what I'm thinking of. An old like 1949, and I believe there was one with Kiefer Sutherland. I think it's Kiefer Sutherland. Anyway, there could be this there could be a what would be safe space, like as the player characters explore through the world, if they can get from outpost to outpost, they can prevent themselves from suffering the ill effects of the disease itself, before moving on to the next thing. You know, like for example, let's say each outpost is exactly 3 days apart. If they make it there in 3 days, okay, great. They can find someone there who can give them some, you know, chicken noodle soup or something to have them go on, as opposed to say like, oh well, the next one is 5 days away, and they're like, well, we need to get out of here, out of this place. It's going to take us 5 days, so that means for 2 days we're going to suffer some ill effects. What do you guys think? And everyone's like, yeah, listen, we only need to hit like 2 outposts and we're out of here, and we can find the old hag that can cure us from this disease or something. And of course, gaming wise, you could make disease where everything comes from, much like in a superhero type setting. That's a very common thing where people are afflicted with something, but they gain some kind of special abilities from it, like I mentioned it yesterday. Or players might have something that afflicts them, and if it lasts too long, they become an NPC, right? That's another way of basically your character dies. Your character becomes an NPC in the hands of the game master. So if the affliction turns you into, I don't know, a minotaur or something, or mutates your body into a manticore or whatnot, on that 5th day, if that happens and the player loses their character, then yeah, that's another way of doing it where you're not like actually having they're not mechanically suffering. Because the problem with mechanical suffrage, like losses of statistics, losses of saving throws, losses in skills, losses of attributes, is what they call a death spiral. It's a death through attrition. So an example would be, let's say the players suffered a disease and they have like disadvantage in all their rolls. Every time they roll a d20, they've got to roll another one and take the lowest one until they get a cure. That means that they're automatically at a disadvantage, lowercase, because of the disadvantage, uppercase D. And the death spiral starts happening then. They can't make their saving throws. They start rolling low. Their attack rolls suck. Every time they get into like a combat encounter or some kind of environmental encounter or try to cross an obstacle, it doesn't work. So that just means that they're going to suffer more harm, more damage, etc. And so that is that's always been a problem with role-playing games, is the death spiral. That while it makes it, and mind you, it makes perfect sense. Hey, someone just shot me in the shoulder with an arrow. I'm in pain and bleeding, so I should be losing blood and suffering harm and in pain and can't think. And so a lot of games do have a statistic where, oh, if you lose this much life, health, stamina, endurance, or what have you, whatever you stress, if you lose so much, then you're at a minus to function. But then what happens is now the player can't get out of that spiral until they can get rest or they get healed or something like that. And if a game has that, usually the healing is very hard to come by, which is the whole point of having the negatives. And that's where the death spiral comes in. Now, there's a reason. Yep, Pelora says where you enter the quick with the role playing game within the Ring of Fire. Yes, you it's a game that uses 2d8. It's a d8 system, and when you enter the quick, when you're at 8 points or less, you start suffering a minus. So you're like at -1 down to -7, and when you hit -8, you're dead, right? So when you enter the quick, games that have that function in them, that mechanical function, tend to be far more gritty because the game system tells you not to get into fights, which is why Dungeons and Dragons doesn't include it, because Dungeons and Dragons is primarily a combat focused game, and getting into fights is kind of the point. So I view it cinematically, where the hero gets stabbed a couple times, shot maybe, a spear in the gut, and then gets punched in the jaw, but they still keep carrying on with that extra grit. And so, to me, that's how Dungeons and Dragons works. If you started a death spiral, lost through attrition, what ends up happening is that after the first couple of hits, the characters are going to want to run from everything because you're going to be less effective, right? And that's why, yeah. Oh, it's only a flesh wound. Yeah. I cut your leg off. Yeah. Yeah, like Pelora says, yeah, drop from 270 hit points to 4, have a nap, and you're back to normal. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cinematic. Some people don't like it because the way it's done, it really breaks the psychological immersion of it. But yeah, it's all right. Yeah, Rickard says catching a disease and getting superpowers. Hello, my name is Contagion Man. Uh, yeah. No, well, okay, yes and no. Um, while this wasn't a disease, there was a comic book series called um, something more Moratori, where people would volunteer for various reasons to get superpowers, but once they got those superpowers, they were dead after a year. And the comic series had a huge turnover because, of course, they're also involved in some of the most dangerous things in the world, fighting bad guys and having superpowers. But yeah, something like that could be a thing, right? Where instead of character classes, they are more like character afflictions that you're like, I'm not a fighter. I just happened, my barbarian has an adrenaline surge or something because of this affliction, and everyone is scared of them or doesn't want to be near them because they have this thing that afflicts them, like lycanthropy. Roy Harper in Arrow was infected with the Mirakuru toxin, which made him into a superhero with a very short temper. Yeah, that's a trope that's been done before, where someone's afflicted by something, but temporarily they have these special abilities. Yeah, vampires count in that. Hemophages in ultraviolet. Hemophages were vampirism as a disease, and I suppose vampirism and lycanthropy are fantastical diseases of sorts. So, I mean, it's already been done. Although I'm being funny with it, yeah, it's already been done. Yeah, Oma says, I remember Rifts had something like that. Yes, I believe so too. Pillar-ist says, I mean, vampires are basically like that. It's a disease. You get a load of benefits, but also a load of drawbacks. I love vampires in the sense that they have a lot of like they for every bonus they have a drawback. Like, oh, I get to drink blood. Great. I'm also sensitive to sunlight. Ooh. Hey, I get to have mind control. Great. I'm also vulnerable to a stake in the heart. Ooh. You know, it's like it's things like that. Yeah, Omen's like, you could be a superhero for a while, but if you don't get rid of it, you'll die from it. In Rifts, they had, while it's not a disease, they had the juicers. And in Rifts, juicers were like, um, they wore a harness that enhanced their physical abilities, giving them like super regeneration and strength and speed and endurance. But you basically, if you played the character, you like roll a d6 plus two. That's how many years you'll live. That's it. Something like that. It was like a D6 or D4, and plus a some kind of modifier as a juicer, and yep, you're dead. Rickard's like, you weren't vulnerable to a stake in the heart before vampirism? Make a point. You make a point about that. Yeah. Uh, they called me the Flush. Why are you red? I'm the Flush. Ooh, I've got the chills and I'm sweating. Yeah. Tesla says like the witch test. If you drown, you were innocent. So stupid. Is it now? Isn't that a kick in the pants? The witch test, right? It's like if you drown, you were innocent, but if you float, you're a witch. So we're gonna have to burn you. Like what the hell? You're thinking like I better drown myself because yeah, yeah. Cameron says it feels funny writing immunity to all damage except wood and silver on a monster layout. Had to do that the other day and had a good laugh. Um, the this is one of those cases where again, it's very difficult to apply it in the game. Although if you try to find the side cases of it, you end up going like, yeah, I guess so, as like a one-off maybe, um, or something like that. Yeah, Omen, I agree with you. Yeah, the witch tests were dumb. Yeah, and mind you, of course, it was one of those. The witch test was dumb because someone wanted to prove a point, and what better way to do that than to put somebody in a corner where they can't get out of it? It's the classic lawyer question of so how long have you been beating your wife, or when was the last time you beat your wife? And then you're like, wait a minute, what? Wait, how do I answer that? Right? It's the same thing. It's the heck. It was the House un-American trials that we had here in the United States, where it's the Red Scare. You're a communist, aren't you? And no, well, if you say you're not a communist, that means you're trying to hide something. Here's a list of your friends. Pick one of the communists out. Maybe we might forgive you. And you're like, wait, what? Like, there's no good answer. Like, you just backed me into a corner. Yeah, a communist would say they weren't one. Wait, huh? And mind you, you just fill in the blank with that kind of stuff, right? And I think one of the we'll get into this for world building, but one of the great things, geez, for tabletop games and using a pandemic is not often the pandemic itself, but the way people act during the pandemic. Like we talked about the Train to Busan. You always have to have that asshole character that's like, I'm out for myself and I don't care if other people die, right? You're going to have the people, when the player characters want to find some place for safety, there's always going to be those people that like, no, we're closing the castle walls. You can't come in. You're infected. You're going to infect the rest of us. Or innocent people getting lumped in with the infected because maybe somebody wants them dead, or someone has a beef with that person and comes up with a reason. Heck, yes, I know I'm giving away a little bit more. Train to Busan. On a Train to Busan, there were characters who clearly were not infected, but the one asshole character was like, they were on the other car. There were zombies. They're infected. We can't have them with us. And just like rolling my eyes, and of course, other people, small minds, don't want to speak up. They're just like, yeah, you're right. You know, that kind of stuff. Oh man, Omen's like, you're a witch. You're wearing a pointy hat and you cackle funny. Yeah, right. Well, yeah, but whatever. I hear your point, and see, and that's the point. Like, what was the uh there was we talked about Typhoid Mary and the history of the person who was Typhoid Mary, Milan or Malin, who um, basically had typhoid and was spreading it to other people by cooking meals and spreading it in their food. And that individual was quarantined, basically apprehended because they refused to stop spreading the disease. And the the great story element of pandemics are the way people act during those pandemics, right? Do they start accusing other people? Do they start coming up with lots of um, ill thought out mechanisms to deal with the disease? Whether it is people turn to faith, people turn to pseudoscience, um, people become insular and start not trusting other people. People start to hoard resources. You have all of those things. And then you have the opposites, right? You have people who are out there trying to help everyone else, putting themselves at risk, which becomes this cycle of, hey, you're putting the rest of us at risk. You need to stop helping those people. You know, there are normally law-abiding people who become criminals. There are criminals who feel like this is a second chance to become a different individual. There are people who are supposed to be assigned to protect society who are like, screw that, I'm taking all my weapons and holding you off, as well as the people who are as the individuals who had predicted this kind of thing would happen. The downfall of society was going to happen anyway, right? um Dead Man puts in the yeah yeah the Typhoid Mary was an asymptomatic typhoid carrier, a person who had the disease but didn't show any symptoms of it, which, mind you, player characters could very well be asymptomatic in your game, right? Like, oh, hey guys, you have this disease, and they're like, uh-oh, do I get level loss? No, 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 you have no mechanical disadvantages, but you will spread it to other people. Basically signing them to whatever affliction the pandemic has, especially if it's death. So that in and of itself, especially if there's a very clear physical presentation of it, purple splotches, night sweats, skin turns blue, belching butterflies, like Cameron brought up the other day. If there's something clearly the player characters are like not just describing, but like their presence, or heck, the having to go through the chicane of like dogs that can smell the disease that start barking, barking at those afflicted. Yeah. Deadman puts in let's see, the Mirakuru, as in miracle. Roy Harper, aka Arsenal. It's a Japanese super soldier serum created during World War II that causes enhanced physical abilities once injected. Use of the serum ran the risk of not only death, but also driving the subject insane with aggression and hostility, as it could warp the person's mind and personality. And um, I know you guys know of like 28 days later and 28 weeks later. Um, yeah, Cameron says there are people who ignore all advice and gather in large groups too. Yeah, yeah. Your beliefs and your politics, bacteria and viruses don't care about that, right? Sorry, but that's the truth. You're um, but that's a truism of the world, we as human beings wish to the nth degree that our minds could change the world around us, and if we just think hard enough, um, fantasy becomes reality. And this is just one of those cases where we're going through it yet again. This isn't something new, though, right? Like, this has happened from time immemorial, right? It's um it's just it just goes on and on and on. I think I'm using that incorrectly, but anyway, yeah, um the idea that there's like some kind of like rage zombies where it affects your brain, causes you to go insane, causes you to lose your mind. A fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons has insanity rules, and you could apply those insanity rules to a disease. So a character going insane with short term, then long term, then permanent insanity, especially if it stacks on top of each other, could effectively kill your character, right? Like, I've always said, death isn't always necessarily the worst thing that can happen to you. Death is just a method by which we measure you not being able to play your character anymore. So insanity counts with that. Same as, I don't know, fading away to non-existence, or transforming your character into something that becomes an NPC for some reason, or being deposited down in the ninth layer of hell and no one can go get you. Like, all those things are death. And so a disease that basically turns you into an NPC rage zombie, not too bad. Or turns you into a catatonic individual that stops eating until you die. I think that's close. That's as close to death as you can get if you are just if you lose your mind. Deadman says it was tried in New York City. 3 days later, they had to shut down the number due to all the false reports. Yeah. It's now, basically what's happening is, like, we the number of tests are rising, but also the number of deaths are rising as well. So yeah, but people don't like to be told what to do, especially here in the States. So it doesn't matter what it is. People just have a desire to not be, I guess it was during the same backlash when they said, no shirt, no shoes, no service. It's the same thing. Yeah. Oh no, Omen, you don't know. No, no. If you the rewards for, if you told the police about mass gatherings and stuff, yeah, that's not a good idea either. Despite it would work for a short time, and then you'd have, like, you always have those people who are like, uh who already are of the mindset that they want to, like, rat on other people, and yeah, you don't want to do that. Yeah, we are naturally rebellious. We're built on rebellion anyway, which is funny because during yet another age of rebellion, people were like, "You need to stop rebelling. That's not American." I'm like, that's not exactly true. Yeah, see, Dead Man's on the other side of it, right? Dead Man's like, "Nah, COVID's not a big deal," and I'm like, "It isn't, because we don't want to make it one." I'm neither the end of the world person, and I'm not a denier either. It is what it is. Our beliefs of what it is won't make that change. Yeah. Um, yeah. Now the number of cases is rising exponentially, simply because there are more people getting tests. But the problem is that it actually, it's the exception that proves the rule, right? The more people that test positive for it that are asymptomatic, are the greater number of people who are going to spread it to other people. And yes, you could probably, I'm pretty sure you could spread it to people who then they are asymptomatic, and then they are asymptomatic, but then that just means we're we're picking a bunch of grandparents and sensitive people who could die from it. Now, most people who have it and are asymptomatic are like, well, I don't see what the big deal is. And I'm thinking, sure, until you're in that sensitive group and all the people around you have it who are asymptomatic and they're not affected by it, and now you have this greater affliction, right? Yep. Happy Treason Day. Yep. Yeah. What was it? It's like, what do people in Britain celebrate 4th of July? I'm like, no, because no one celebrates their losses. Nobody does that. United States doesn't celebrate Vietnam War Day. No. Yeah, you can celebrate your success. Nobody celebrates the losses. Yeah, Omen's like, yeah, it's kind of who you are. You want to talk about obedience? That'd be the Japanese. Yeah, we are a storytelling, because we're getting to the end. We're as storytelling, we are Westerners, not Easterners. Um, Western stories are the person who brings we are the person who brings chaos in a world of chaos, right? The lawless land and a lone figure who comes there to right a wrong, who's not really or not quite duly appointed as the law. That's the kind of story. That's who we are. Um, Eastern stories are like people trying to break the status quo, and duly appointed individuals who represent the law establish law and order. Right? No, who brings chaos in a world of chaos? Western stories, Western the gunfighter stories, Western cowboy stories. Right? It's people living out in a lawless land, and there's no law to go to. It's just an individual or a group of individuals. Even the classic U.S. Marshal is really just a person randomly chosen to alleviate the problem that's happening out in chaos. It's not bringing more chaos. It's just that there are no rules. We're inserting the rules that we see fit at that time. The bad guys insert their rules. We're going to steal all your stuff and rape, pillage. And I'm going to insert my rules because you're a horse thief and you're a bad guy. And I'm going to take out. I'm going to Western justice, right? Street justice. That's chaos with air quotes. Vigilantism is a type of chaos, whereas more Eastern stories are we have a way of life, we have law, we have structure. Say a samurai represents that structure, and then there are others who want to disrupt that structure. So it's law bringing the law, getting rid of the chaos, and then you have like northern and southern stories where, let's say a northern story would be there is law, but someone is there to bring chaos. So maybe the law itself is more like a northern story would be the law is so restrictive that people don't have a way out of it, much like a totalitarian government, a dictatorship, and someone wants to bring chaos. They want to bring the system down. And then a southern story is there's complete chaos, and someone needs to bring order to that chaos. So there's complete chaos and debauchery, and then someone or something from externally instills law and order into a world. This is how we should live. We should appoint people to become the ruler. We should instill order back, much like Robin Hood. Robin Hood is a classic. There is no, Robin Hood would be a northern story. There's oppressive law. Robin Hood comes in to instill chaos into that totalitarian regime. Although it could be bringing about law and order. I don't know. It's different. Huh. Yeah, you could claim the gunfighter's bringing order to a world of chaos, but it's pretty temporary, right? Gunslinger comes in, or the gunslinger has like Wild West justice, but it's not. Yeah, like Deadman says, lawful good versus lawful evil. Yeah, it's the it's the idea that the gunslinger comes in, kills all the bad guys, but it hasn't changed the world. It hasn't. It's not like the gunslinger. I mean, sure, if the gunslinger stays as the marshal, then they are creating a law in a world of chaos, right? But if the gunslinger is like a bad guy who just like, I'm going to do my one good act, I'm going to kill the other bad guys, and then they leave, it's more like, they didn't really solve anything. They just were like, well, my chaos is better than your chaos. So because the Wild West is still wild, and you don't know West. It's the idea. It's very generalized. It's very generalized. It's either it's law versus chaos in the in the uh, as you start to look around not the alignment, but like the things. It's chaos versus chaos, law versus law versus chaos, and chaos versus law. different story types, right? Um, Superman brings law into a world of chaos, and Batman is using his chaos in many ways to instill his chaos. Right? Batman breaks the law. He takes away people's rights and privileges and stuff. It's like there's no Miranda rights. He's like, I'm breaking legs and things like that. So you could claim that Batman is kind of there. Charlie Squared, what's going on there? A long time. The White Hat Cowboy casts the evil out, but they don't replace it with a structure that prevents more evil in the future. Right. It's a very temporary, like, I'm going to alleviate your problem now, but I'm not going to stick around in the future. Now, there are stories where the agent of chaos, the hero, brings about law, but they still remain as the agent of chaos, like Mad Max. The Mad Max stories are that way, right? Max lives in the world of chaos, but he likes to bring law to other people. So, and those are kind of cool dichotomies where you start to mix and match them a lot. So yeah. Pelora says, gotta run, nice to hear. Oh, no, Pelora, nice to hear your sultry tones. Oh yeah. And you're always welcome. You are always welcome. If I ever get over to your side of the pond, I will leave behind my rebellion and come meet you and give you the biggest hug in the world. I don't care, because we've known of each other for a very long time and never met. I think that would be cool. Yeah, and like Rickard's saying, I would argue that Batman is an agent of order, but not through law. It makes you wonder, though, if Batman is ever successful, because he's trying to bring order to Gotham. Would he be the gunslinger that leaves? Like, would he be a martyr to his own cause? Like, hey, I've rid my city of relatively most of that really bad crime. Do I retire, or do I keep fighting to the point where you know what I mean? I become the bad guy or burn himself out. I don't know. It's kind of obsessed. So right, would it be making himself redundant and leave or what? I don't know. I can't imagine him going, oh, cleaned up crime, I'm done. I think it would be far too traumatic at that point. Um, right, and like blind lurker, sorry, you're a little bit late, but you're always welcome. Batman is his own alignment. Yeah, yeah. Batman believes in justice, not necessarily the law. Exactly. He breaks the law to bring about justice. Right? What, that pedophile that got away with it? F that dude. I'm breaking bones. I'm going to work. Right? He's not like, I'm going to collect evidence and ensure that justice is made by taking him into court and ensuring that the law is. No, he's like, he's going to beat ass. Yeah, I think he's a little bit more in the chaos form. Yeah, Cameron says, with your interpretation of Batman's alignment, does that mean you would say that Joker versus Batman is chaos versus chaos? It's kind of weird, because we all know Joker is literally the living embodiment of the agent of chaos, which I think it throws in the face. The idea is it throws in the face of what Batman is doing. So in that case, I really would think it would be law versus chaos in a way. Charlie Squares as Batman would head to Apocalypse to fight Darkseid. He's done that a couple of times. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, guys, we've come to the end, kind of going over. We always get squirrely on the show, but whatever. We don't care. Anyway, tomorrow is World Building Wednesday. We are going to create ourselves a pandemic. Strange to say that. We're going to create ourselves a pandemic and make a setting with where pandemic is in it, and what would the characters be doing? What would society be like? How far into the future will we get that pandemic? I don't know. Will it be 6 months or will it be 5 years? Who knows? Anyway, we'll discuss that tomorrow. Again, the show is long form. Guys, thank you very much. If you like, share, subscribe, spread the word, what have you. And lastly, hopefully, I will still be having that interview with Dave from Nerdarchy. So I'll let you guys know when that is coming up. But having part of his Nerdarchy Live interview series. So hopefully that'll take place as well. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you for watching.